Silver has just hit a brand new all-time high, and moves like this don't happen unless something deeper is shifting in the global economy. When silver breaks out, it usually means confidence in paper money is fading, inflation is rising faster than people realize, and real assets are starting to show their true value. And right now, that's exactly what we're seeing. Across the world, currencies are weakening, the cost of living is climbing, retirements are becoming uncertain, and savings held in dollars are losing purchasing power every single year. People feel it, families feel it, and as silver surges while the dollar declines, it raises a simple but powerful question. What do you actually save in when your currency keeps losing value? This is where Robert Kiyosaki's warning becomes more important than ever. Because everything happening right now, inflation, debt, a weakening dollar, pressure on 401ks, and the rising value of real assets, is exactly what he has been talking about for decades. So, with silver exploding and the financial system under strain, let's hear directly from Robert Kiyosaki himself, as he explains why saving in dollars no longer works, and why gold and silver have become essential in a world where currencies are collapsing.
Since you and I are now the senior citizens of this generation, how are you prepared for it? Or what would you recommend a person prepare for it? If you save the dollar, America is printing $2 trillion a year, like Zimbabwe was.
Yeah.
Why would you save the dollar?
It's crazy to save the dollar, but you have to save. It's important to produce more than you consume and save the difference. But what do you save it in? You can't save dollars. They're hot potatoes. It's an IOU nothing on the part of a bankrupt government. So I've used gold and silver as savings vehicles forever. So I bought my first gold at around $40 an ounce, and I've never sold an ounce. So I still have it all, and lots of silver. I hate to advise people to buy gold now, because before it was obviously depressed relative to everything else. Now it seems to me gold is more or less where it should be relative to cars, houses, clothes. I think it could go 10 to 1 from here for different reasons, but not because it's underpriced. But you have to save. The problem is, what do you save in now? It's a tougher situation than people have ever been in before, I think. I think silver is still relatively underpriced. It's going higher.
Silver's new all-time high is not a coincidence, and it's not a temporary spike. It's the result of years of pressure that finally broke through the surface. For decades, the price of silver was held down by a system built on paper contracts, artificial supply, and financial engineering. The LBMA in London and the COMEX in New York controlled the price through massive amounts of synthetic silver, contracts representing metal that didn't physically exist. This system only works as long as the world accepts paper as reality. But today, reality is fighting back. When countries like India and China are willing to pay higher real-world prices for physical silver, the suppressed London price becomes impossible to maintain. Buyers simply purchase the cheaper paper-priced silver in London, convert it to physical metal, and ship it to wherever demand is stronger. Over time, this drains Western vaults, and that's exactly what has happened. London's free float, the silver they can actually deliver, has been collapsing. It reached the point where the LBMA had to airlift emergency shipments from New York just to avoid defaulting on deliveries. Shortly after, London was forced to lease silver from China at high interest, even though China's own silver inventories had fallen to a 10-year low. This isn't a normal market. This is a system under stress. When a financial hub must borrow precious metal just to keep its pricing structure alive, it means the structure itself is breaking. And once physical supply becomes tight enough, paper suppression no longer works. That's when real assets surge, and that's exactly what's happening now. Meanwhile, official supply and demand numbers confirm the long-term trend. Global mine production has been stuck at roughly 800 million ounces per year, with recycling contributing less than 200 million. But demand has been between 1.1 and 1.3 billion ounces for 5 consecutive years. Even with higher prices, mining cannot ramp up quickly. Opening a new silver mine can take a decade. Feasibility studies, environmental approvals, infrastructure, construction, scaling. It's a slow, expensive process. What makes the situation more extreme is that official demand data doesn't even include military consumption. Modern warfare runs on silver. Missiles, guidance systems, drones, radar units, navigation, communication equipment, silver is inside all of it. And with rising geopolitical tension, silver demand from militaries worldwide is exploding quietly in the background. At the same time, silver is becoming even more essential for civilian technology. AI infrastructure, data centers, electric vehicles, high-efficiency electronics, semiconductors, advanced batteries, nuclear energy systems, and especially solar panels all rely on silver. There is simply no equal when it comes to conductivity, reliability, and performance. That's why in 2025, the U.S. government officially labeled silver a critical mineral, something the nation cannot function without. Add to this the monetary pressure. The Federal Reserve is cutting rates again and entering another cycle of quantitative easing, flooding the system with newly created dollars. Every time the Fed prints, the currency weakens and real assets rise. That's not speculation, that's history. Silver responds faster and more violently than gold because it sits at the intersection of money and industry. When the dollar drops and inflation rises, silver becomes a safe haven. When technology expands, silver becomes a necessity. When militaries strengthen, silver becomes a strategic resource. And then there's the gold-to-silver ratio. With a GSR around 75, silver is still dramatically undervalued relative to gold. In true bull markets, that ratio has collapsed to 40, 30, or even 20 to 1. Today's ratio suggests silver has far more room to rise. Institutional investors haven't even entered the market yet. Pension funds, sovereign wealth funds, and large asset managers hold almost no silver. If they shifted even a fraction of 1% into silver, the global supply would simply vanish. We're already seeing early signs of this shift. Major investment firms are beginning to advise reducing bond exposure and increasing allocations to hard assets. Silver will inevitably follow gold as mainstream investors seek safety from a weakening dollar. Silver ETFs are already experiencing heavy inflows. In the first half of 2025 alone, more than 90 million ounces of silver were absorbed by ETFs, more than all of 2024 combined. If this trend continues, ETFs will compete directly with industrial users, governments, and private investors for physical metal. That competition will push prices even higher. So, where does all of this point? It points to a silver market that is far from finished. This is not the top. This is not the end of the road. It's the breakout phase of a long-term structural shift. Silver won't rise in a straight line. No asset does. But the forces pushing it higher are global, powerful, and irreversible in the short term. And this is where everything connects to the message from Robert Kiyosaki. Because the pressures we're seeing in silver are the same pressures building in the broader financial system. Inflation, currency debasement, declining purchasing power, rising inequality, exploding national debt. These are not separate issues. They are symptoms of the same root problem, a monetary system that no longer protects savers. And now we move into the exact part of Robert Kiyosaki's message. Robert Kiyosaki explains that saving dollars has become dangerous. America is printing money at rates similar to what we saw in collapsing economies like Zimbabwe. He asks, why would anyone save a currency that loses purchasing power every year? Dollars are no longer a safe store of value. They're hot potatoes, as he puts it. IOUs backed by a government drowning in debt. That's why Kiyosaki has saved in gold and silver his entire life. He bought gold when it was $40 an ounce and never sold because real assets don't go to zero. He's seen this cycle play out before, and he believes silver is still underpriced relative to the world we're entering. Kiyosaki warns that inflation is the silent enemy waiting to destroy the boomer generation's 401ks and retirement accounts. Even if a portfolio grows 2 or 3%, inflation quietly takes 5 to 10% in real terms. The government's numbers can't be trusted. He compares U.S. inflation data to Argentina's manipulated figures. The reality is that everyone is losing purchasing power faster than they think. He and Doug Casey discuss the Greater Depression, an era where Social Security is effectively bankrupt, where 2 billion baby boomers globally are moving out of the workforce, where medical bills skyrocket as people age, and where more Americans rely on government support than ever before. Kiyosaki highlights the explosion of homelessness and warns that Thomas Jefferson predicted this centuries ago. When a central bank takes over a nation's money, the people eventually wake up homeless in their own country. He criticizes the belief that printing money will fix everything. Politicians focus only on the short-term illusion. More money makes people feel richer. But they ignore the long-term consequences: the destruction of the currency, the collapse of savings, the decline of the bond market, and the weakening of national stability. Kiyosaki's warning is simple and direct. When a financial system relies on endless money printing, debt expansion, and manipulated paper assets, real assets become the only safe haven. Gold, silver, and real estate survive because they are not promises. They are value. This is where the silver story and Kiyosaki's message merge. Silver's breakout is a reflection of the world losing faith in paper promises. Inflation, currency debasement, debt, aging populations, and a fragile financial system. It all leads in one direction, toward real assets.
And then what Buffett's been saying, which is a concern that I have. He says the worst thing that's going to hit the boomer generation with their 401ks is inflation.
Yeah.
No matter how much they have in their 401k, and we're spending $2 trillion more than we pull in. They're probably
that's right. I mean, you buy your average stock, and maybe it's yielding 2 or 3%, something like that. Yeah. But the dollar is losing value. You can't believe the government's figures. You can't believe the U.S. government's figures any more than you can believe the Argentine government's figures. The dollar is losing value in real terms in between 5 and 10% per year. So what do you do? I know real estate has always treated you extremely well because it's a real asset. But is real estate getting overpriced too?
Well, you can always find a bargain. You know what I mean? That's what I like about real estate. There's somebody always in the sell mode. Anyway, you wrote about the Greater Depression. We're of the generation now that's cruising into a bankrupt Social Security. Do you know how many baby boomers are in the world, Doug?
Let me see. In the U.S. or in the world?
The total world. The number 2 billion baby boomers. That means there's 2 billion people out of 8 billion coming off the work line. I'm going, what's that going to do?
Well, do they have enough savings to maintain them as their bodies start falling apart?
That's what I mean. What goes up are your medical bills.
Yeah.
At 60, they just skyrocket.
Well, on the bright side, maybe Elon Musk is right, and in 10 years, robots will be able to do most of what needs doing in the way of physical labor. And it seems like AI is already doing people's thinking for them. But I'm not sure you can trust AI any more than you can trust Wikipedia, quite frankly.
Yeah. The other thing I heard is that there's 200 million Americans out of 360 million, almost 50%, who are on some kind of government subsistence.
I think that's true. And I wonder how many Americans are sleeping under bridges and on park benches, because you go to major cities and you see them everywhere. The numbers got to be, I don't know. The numbers are unreliable. I mean, people want to report numbers for whatever political reasons they have, but there are hundreds of thousands of Americans that have nothing, not even a house, maybe not even a tent. So what's going to happen to those people? I mean, are we going to have to support them as their numbers double and triple and more?
Thomas Jefferson warned us years ago. He says, if a central bank takes over, people will wake up homeless in their own country. And now homelessness is exploding across America. And we have a Federal Reserve Bank that everybody worships. And I'm going, are you kidding me? The Federal Reserve Bank's Marxist.
Yes, and they expect that, including Trump, I've got to say, he thinks that if the Federal Reserve just reduces interest rates and prints more money, then everything will be fine. Everything will boom. So he looks at the immediate and direct consequences of printing a lot of money up. Hey, I feel rich. I can go out and buy stuff. But he does not look at the delayed and indirect consequences. The currency becomes nothing. People's savings are destroyed. The bond market will be destroyed.
As we move forward from everything happening in the silver market and everything Robert Kiyosaki warned about, one truth becomes impossible to ignore. We are entering a time when every decision counts. What you save in, what you invest in, what you trust, and what you prepare for will shape your future more than at any point in the last generation. Silver is breaking out because the world around it is breaking down. Inflation is rising, currencies are weakening, real assets are becoming scarce, and millions of people are beginning to realize that the old financial system no longer protects them the way they once believed. Moments like this don't announce themselves twice. They appear once, and then they become history. And whether this becomes a crisis or an opportunity depends entirely on how prepared you are when the tides shift. Kiyosaki's message is clear. Real assets survive the storms that paper assets cannot. Every economic cycle eventually reaches a point where trust in promises fades, and only the things with real, intrinsic value remain standing. So, as we wrap up today's video, take a moment to step back and consider the bigger picture. Consider what it means for your savings, your future, your family, and the world you're moving into. The decisions people make now will echo through the years ahead. This isn't about fear. It's about awareness, clarity, and the power to act before the rest of the world wakes up. If you want to stay ahead of these shifts and follow the full story as it unfolds, you're welcome to subscribe and follow the channel for the next updates. There is much more coming, and the next phase of this transition is already taking shape. And I want to leave you with one question that truly matters right now. If your currency keeps losing value, your savings are shrinking, and real assets are rising all around you, what do you trust to protect your future over the next 5 years? Take a moment to think about that, and I'll see you in the next video.